A new campaign in Ontario is looking to gain support for Alberta as an economic engine. Here to tell us a little bit more about this new campaign and his organization is Bill Bewick. He is Executive Director with Fairness Alberta. Bill, thank you for joining us on the program again. And once again, maybe you could just remind us what Fairness Alberta is and tell us a little bit more about this new campaign that you've just launched.
Sure. Our group formed last year, and it was mostly built out of people who are just kind of frustrated with how much Albertans have been contributing to the rest of the country and then what we're getting in return. At the best of times, it's neglect, but too often lately, it seems like it's been active hostility and policies that are not just not supporting Alberta, but against our interests. And so it's for a long time, a lot of our focus has been on transfers and different programs like equalization and the health transfers and the fiscal stabilization program. But in the last 6 months, really the focus has had to turn to the other side of the coin, which is what we get in return from Ottawa. And there's a lot of very high anxiety about whether Alberta's economy is going to be able to bounce back, depending on which direction the government takes. And so our priority has always been to make Canadians aware, first of all, of how much Alberta's economy and Alberta's taxpayers have contributed to the country. And so once that recognition is there, we hope that there will be some interest in allowing for some reforms to some of the main policies that are taking so much of the wealth from Alberta in good times. But in particular, a real anxiety from the rest of the country about implementing policies that'll prevent this economic engine and taxpayers who have really been paying the freight for the federal government to a large extent. We really want to make sure that people know that there's a lot at stake with Alberta's policies and how Alberta gets treated.
So why have you chosen Ontario specifically? And I understand this is a billboard campaign then that you've launched now.
Yeah, we certainly, I think we're unique in Alberta for being one of the groups that's actually looking at trying to change minds across the country. And but we don't have a giant budget, so we got to start somewhere. And Ontario is more than a third of the people, and there's certainly many decisions that get made between Toronto and Ottawa. So we feel like if we can start moving the dial there, that is a huge impact. And then we plan to go to British Columbia next, but we're always trying to speak to all of Canada.
Why is it so important right now? Were you sparked at all by the throne speech, the federal government back now in session now? What has sparked you to take up this campaign right now?
We planned it a few months ago, mostly because of the economy and how clear it is that Alberta's economy is hitting a crossroads. But that was certainly heightened as the throne speech drew nearer, and as more and more indications are coming out of Ottawa that they're trying to decide which direction to go in terms of supporting the energy sector or not. And so it seems like it has turned into perfect timing, and it's never been more important to have people in central Canada really have Alberta's contributions to the country historically, Alberta's potential contributions to help us get out of this economic crisis, to have that top of mind for everybody as we go through the next few months and figure out which direction we're going to go.
I know many Albertans had voiced some concerns after hearing the throne speech. Did you have any red flags for the direction that the federal government is looking to go right now? Or do you see potential and possibility in working with them as far as a province to gain more from Confederation now?
Well, there's always potential, but it was a little disconcerting to have basically no mention of our economy. There was some talk of helping us transition, but that's not exactly a short-term or a medium-term solution. And it also sounds like they're willing to leave an incredible amount of prosperity on the table, and instead have all the wealth that comes from the traditional energy sector, for which global demand is going up for the next 20 years. It sounds like they're willing to potentially leave all those profits for other countries and all those jobs for other countries. So we're hoping that we can help again, make everyone in Canada more aware of just how much Albertans have contributed and just how much our federal government has relied on the energy sector and the jobs that spin off from it.
Is it purely the energy sector that your organization is looking at? Because I know the Green Plan has raised some red flags for a lot of Albertans, but is there a little bit of both sides to that, some potential and perhaps some concern as well?
Alberta's economy has diversified quite a bit, but inevitably something that is as highly productive and generates as much wealth as the energy sector is going to be at the core of it. So it's more than that, but it is certainly, that is a giant part of it. And so if the government isn't, we just need to make sure that the entire country, and including decision makers, but also the people in their communities that they talk to, we want to make sure that everybody realizes what's at stake, and that we, however we're going to address environmental issues, if we go too far, we are going to be hurting Canada.
How has COVID factored into your campaign and into what you're doing to try and achieve some attention? Has it changed your strategies at all, or your concerns here and there as you move forward?
Yeah, it's certainly made it a little more difficult to raise funds. We're a grassroots organization. We rely on donations, and that's been a little trickier, but we've still managed to get a fair bit of support. And we've also, I think we probably would have done this regardless, but we've really directed ourselves towards social media and online targeted advertising. So the billboards are going up to get some high level attention. But really where we expect to reach people in other provinces is through online ads that are targeted at the people who are more inclined to be interested in these topics. And we'll get them, whether they're looking at a newspaper website or even just a recipe in their phone, the online ads know who's interested and who's going to click on the ad and then spend some time hopefully on our website, where we have a lot of information that is presented in a factual, nonpartisan. We try to avoid adjectives as much as possible and really just convey a message that to raise awareness. Did you realize what's at stake here? Did you realize how much Albertans have been contributing? Did you realize how much we've been relying on Alberta's prosperity?
So what is the goal from this campaign then, and are you starting to see some traction so far?
Yeah, we did actually start kind of a baseline lower level online ads in Ottawa and Toronto 3 months ago, and we were surprised that the number of clicks we were getting, especially out of Toronto. So we have there's some analytics that show the kind of people that are likely to be interested in this message. And I went to Toronto last week, and we got a great coverage in Toronto and Ottawa newspapers. I met with someone from the Premier's office at Queen's Park in Toronto. I presented to a number of MPs. Certainly the Alberta MPs were particularly interested, but also spoke to some from Ontario and Saskatchewan. So we think there is, everybody, I think, across the country knows that Albertans are getting very frustrated, that sentiments are rising about whether people even want to be in the country anymore. And so I think there's some interest in our message, which is, here's why people are so frustrated. Here's why you should do something about it. And then here's how it's even in your interest to make sure that you get Alberta's economy back on track. It's a win for Albertans, but it's also a win for the rest of the country.
Again, that's Bill Bewick. He is the Executive Director with Fairness Alberta.